وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
And good morning, this is Radio Baladi with Adel Mozib sitting in today for Layla Al-Husseini. Welcoming you today to our great show. We're talking today about Islamophobia, the rise of Islamophobia, especially in the American media. You're going to have guests. You can call us at 248-557-3300. That's our phone number. Also, you can use online social networks to jump into the conversation. The hashtag would be Radio Baladi, and I'll be repeating it all over the show. So today we are talking about the major topic of Islamophobia, the rise of it in the recent months, especially in the American media. How is it in cable news? Even it's being out of control. What are your thoughts on this? Have you been subject to Islamophobia? Have you witnessed it in some areas? I'd like to hear your stories as well. We have stats. I'm going to play some sound bites also from cable news where people have expressed great hatred against the religion and Muslims. And is it based out of ignorance? Is it based out of hate? That's for you to decide as a listener, as an informed citizen. So welcoming you to the great show. Use the hashtag Radio Baladi on Twitter, on Facebook. I'll be reading those tweets to you as they come. So talking about Islamophobia today, hoping to get your opinions, your thoughts, your concerns. We will have some guests right after this commercial.
Senabriku for all your Metro Detroit real estate needs. 248-755-3494. Whether buying or selling, short sales, foreclosure, or investment for both business and residential, call Senabriku, owner and broker of St. Jude Realty at 248-755-3494. If you're facing legal problems, it's time to get the right attorney working for you. Ziad Gossett is experienced in foreclosure defense, eviction, and real estate law, as well as immigration matters, workers' comp, bankruptcy, business law, and all criminal matters. With attorney Ziad Gossett in your corner, you won't have to fight alone. Call 248-680-7300. That's 248-680-7300.
Ziad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziad.com. That's www.ziad.com. Ziad, quality products from our family to yours.
And welcome back to Radio Baladi. We have on the phone with us Dean Obaidullah. He's an American Muslim comedian, Palestinian, Italian descent, as well as a columnist for the CNN and he recently launched a new website that he's going to tell us about. And Dean, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
We're talking today about Islamophobia, and you have appeared in many shows talking about this.
Yes.
How do you see it? Do you see the spike that it has happened in the last month or so, especially with what's happening in the Middle East and what ISIS is doing in Iraq and Syria?
I've seen it in the rhetoric that we've all witnessed on different TV shows. We've seen it from Fox News, of course, which has been doing it for years, to even people making comments that are not, I don't think, bigots at all, but just really uninformed, and ISIS is concerning them. And, you know, in New York City, where I live, since July, there's been 14 anti-Muslim hate crimes just since July, and last year there's only 7 the entire year. So you have an issue where, you know, people are worried, some are scared, and for those who really don't like Muslims and have been harboring those fears or those feelings for years and making a living off it, it just gives them another excuse to go on TV networks and sort of stoke the flames of hate and distrust against us. So it is a more challenging time right now. It'll pass a little bit, but, you know, we go up and down. This is a more challenging time.
Now, do you see double standards when it comes to racism on air, especially cable news? It's like you can't really say anything about anybody else but, like, Muslims, and it's like it's acceptable. It's like it's part of the norms, isn't it?
You know, it's true. It is. I mean, sometimes the conversations. Well, I mean, I just wrote an article today for the Daily Beast because I write for CNN periodically, but I write for the Daily Beast every week as a columnist. And I just wrote an article about can we have a conversation about Islam. I mean, I think that we should be able to have a conversation with people who have valid concerns, who just want to learn, who have heard some things and not sure what's true and what's not. You know, what we watched last week with Bill Maher and Ben Affleck was, you know, a shouting match. And I love Ben Affleck's passion, but I don't think it informed people anymore. Those who were a little apprehensive about Muslims, I don't think it answered any of their questions. It called Bill Maher out for what he is, and we know for years he's said anti-Muslim comments and even anti-Arab comments. You know, this just brought it home for a lot of other people. So I think we have to have that conversation. And don't forget, sometimes the conversation is about ISIS or a terror group, and then even though they're not demonizing Muslims, just talking about us in that context makes people think really negatively about us. So, you know, but I do think the bottom line there is double standard. I think there are things said about Muslims that if you said about any other group, you're going to lose your job. I mean, Bill Maher said far worse things over the years about Muslims than Donald Sterling, the former NBA owner, said about black people publicly.
Yep.
And Donald Sterling was pushed out of his you know, ownership of the basketball team. Or Paula Dean said about black people in the past and lost her TV show on the Food Network. I'm not advocating Bill Maher should lose his TV show. It's not like that. I think there needs to be more responsibility, and I wish that, you know, Maher, who is a smart guy, while we disagree on certain issues, I agree with him on other issues, is just truly being irresponsible. And I don't think that part of it is they don't care. You know, it's for ratings or for headlines. And very little concern about the actual human effect on American Muslims living here.
But it has actually increased their TV ratings anyway by having these conversations.
Yes.
And you have said that people are actually making a living out of hatred against Muslims on air. So I actually do have the conversation.
You couldn't even have it. You know, there was a time in America, and some people aren't aware of, in the 1930s and 1940s, where anti-Semitism was accepted in mainstream America, where politicians even demonized Jews. You know, so it's just the flip side where we are now today. But what's remarkable, the most despicable part of the people like Pamela Geller and Frank Gaffney, and those who are literally selling books and giving speeches, making money off peddling hate. I mean, that's ridiculous. And there are organizations and even corporations that give money, like Boeing gives money to Frank Gaffney's company, General Dynamics, because he pretends he's like dealing with security issues, but in reality, his job is to demonize Muslims. That's mostly what his job is. So it's an odd place. It really is.
Dean, just to jump from this conversation to tell us more about what you're doing right now. You have been doing a lot. You have co-produced or directed a comedy, Muslims Are Coming. Is that anywhere to be seen?
Yeah, it's on Netflix now. It came on Netflix a couple of months ago. It's also on iTunes, and Amazon downloads. You can download it, and it's a comedy documentary. Myself and my friend Negin Farsad, and she's a Muslim American female comic here in New York, made. And we did all free shows in the South and the West, and the reason we did the shows for free, we wanted to meet people. We brought a bunch of other Muslim American comedians, including Mason Zayed, and people like Aaron Cater with us, Preacher Moss. So, we have African American Muslims represented, Middle Eastern secular Muslims, more devout Muslims. It's really the range of it to meet people. And we had some really great celebrities take time to be in the film, like Jon Stewart from The Daily Show's in it, and Russell Simmons, and Keith Ellison, the congressman, and Rachel Maddow, and Janine Garofalo, and Colin Quinn, and a whole bunch of others. I should say there is some cursing in it, so it's halal-ish or haram-ish, depending on your point of view on how you look at things.
Yeah.
So if you have a problem with cursing, don't watch it. But if you don't have any problem with the cursing,
but I'm sure viewers will get a huge laugh out of
hope so.
this
it's funny and it
hilarious
makes a good
movie.
point.
Right. So thank you so much, Dean, for getting with us today out of your busy schedule. Dean is a comedian,
Thanks for having me on.
writer.
I appreciate it.
He is a columnist for The Daily Beast. You can follow him on Twitter. His handle is Dean of Comedy. So thank you, Dean.
Please follow me. I'm needy. Thank you. All right, take care.
Thank you so much, Dean. Have a great day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We have on the line a comment from a listener, Saeed. You're on the line?
Hello?
Yes. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I immigrated to the United States like 30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I am Arabic. I am Iraqi.
Welcome.
And the reason we came here, the reason most of the Arabic over here, the Arabs, they are here, I think 98% they came here because of the war. Because of the problem was going on over there in most of the Arab countries, or at least half of them, like Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and all that.
Yes.
So the reason we came here, it was because of the war. I think most of the people. Some people sit down and say not the truth, or say, "Oh, I came here to work," or "I came here as a student." I understand, but you stayed.
Yes.
You stayed and you stayed here because of the war. Now, I ask you, because of the war, who did the war? Who did the war? We came here because of the war. Who did the war? Was it the Muslim or was it the Jewish who did the war? So I ask you personally, and please answer me honestly and tell me. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. And Said, to answer your question from my perspective, I came actually to study and to work, and I did stay. And in my country right now, there's war, and there are no Jews in Yemen, probably only 300 only. And the war is sectarian, and the war is partisan. It's for interests. I don't think anything has to do with religion. So there is a war there. There's so many things, so much stuff going on in the Middle East. I don't think religion plays a role until people use it, such as ISIS. Another listener has a comment. We're welcoming your calls, 248-557-3300, or use hashtag on social networks, Radio Baladi, to make your comment about Islamophobia today. So please keep that on the topic. Jamal, you're on the line.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, the Muslims around the world are 1.5 billion.
Yes.
At this time, the Muslims, not Islam. Islam is above humanity because Islam comes to save humanity like Christianity, like Judaism, like other ones, Sikh, whatever. So, because, we are involved in that area there, so United States of America and the West in general has some issues right now because there's some, rising movement over there, use violence, in the name of Islam to do that. That does not, in reality, represent Islamic population, 1.5 million. It represents some people who carry those ideas that, Islam is a war, jihad, whatever. And that's reflecting to some degree on the people who are also extremists in this country who are fearing this. So what you see right now is normal. Other groups in this country faced the same situation in the past.
Mm-hmm.
How long this is going to take to go through, who knows? I think the area in the Middle East will settle down one way or the other. Sometimes, it takes time for the people to get their freedom, get democracy. That area there did not enjoy democracy for years. 400 years under the Turks. Then, it came after the World War II. This area there, which now we see this way, go back 500, 600 years ago.
Yep.
It's the golden ages of the world. It's the age of Harun Rashid. It's the golden age. It's the research, the medical, the Bin Sina. It's so, it's flip and flop.
Okay.
It's probably a 700, 800 years flip and 800 flop. Now we are on the flop. We are on the slope right now in that area there. And that's affecting. The world used to be there, and the West used to be in the Dark Ages. Now it's flipped up the other way.
And Jamal, just to your point, how many people do know about the research and the things that were discovered by the Muslims in the Golden Era, where in Europe it was called the Dark Ages, right? So that's something to really point out, that what Muslims have done in the past as well.
Habibi, look, you don't have to document history. History is already there.
Right.
So here's where we are. We just, it's look, people in the media are there to make a buck. So now they are grabbing this issue, and they're making some money. They have legitimate,
concerns.
Point of view that there's violence over there. There's people cutting heads. There's people doing all this. This is normal. Those are things that normally happen during the war. Tragedies in Africa, tragedies in Vietnam, tragedies everywhere. So, how much that's going to affect people who are born Muslim, and they are Muslim in America, I don't think that's going to affect us as Muslims here as much as, the media pertains to it.
Well, the media stirs the pot.
We have to weather this and move on. It's who you are as a person. And you are a United States of America citizen. You are protected by the Constitution.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about being Muslim or not. You worry about your rights under the Constitution. And have a great day.
Thank you so much, Jamal, for coming in. And to your last comment, we unfortunately see still lots of people facing so much hatred, even at workplaces, or discrimination happening. And I was hoping today we would host a civil rights activist, but we couldn't get her on there.
Use the law to protect yourself.
Yep.
The law that is going to protect individuals under the Constitution, and it is real, and use it, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much. And now we will take another commercial break, and we will come back to the same topic. We will play some of the sound bites from Bill Maher's show on HBO with Ben Affleck, and we will hear Ben Affleck's response to him. It was phenomenal. So I want you to hear that, and we also want to hear what has happened in the CNN as well. So we'll take a commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Life for Relief and Development is a nonprofit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects that provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
الدكتور عبادة زحيلي أخصائي أمراض الغدد والسكري، خبرة 12 سنة من الأبحاث الطبية والتعامل مع أمراض السكري، آخر الأبحاث والدراسات الصادرة. لدى مركز زحيلي طاقم طبي متميز لاستقبالكم، يتكلمون لغتكم العربية والإنجليزية. مراكز الزحيلي مجهز بشكل كامل لراحتكم والعناية بكم من خلال استقبالكم على 27207 لاشر رود في مدينة ساوثفيلد. لحجز المواعيد اتصلوا على الرقم 248-809-5988 248-809-5988. مراكز الزحيلي لأمراض الغدد والسكري ترحب بكم.
Welcome back to Radio Baladi. We're talking today about Islamophobia and its rise in the media. We have received a lot of your comments and would like to get some more. The phone number is 248-557-3300. Hashtag Radio Baladi on Twitter and also on Facebook. I do have lots of people talking about Islamophobia and social network. If you look up the hashtag Islamophobia. So I want to play you the sound bites from HBO's show Real Time by Bill Maher and Ben Affleck's response to his comments. So it's a little bit long, but it's very, very, very interesting. So let's take a listen.
So the other thing we want to talk about, of course, is that you and I have been trying to make the case, I think, I have anyway, that liberals need to stand up for liberal principles. This is what I said on last week's show. Obviously, I got a lot of hate for it. But all I'm saying is that liberal principles like freedom of speech, freedom to practice any religion you want without fear of violence, freedom to leave a religion, equality for women, equality for minorities, including homosexuals. These are liberal principles that liberals applaud for. But then when you say in the Muslim world this is what's lacking, then they get upset.
Yeah. Well, liberals have really failed on the topic of theocracy. They'll criticize white theocracy. They'll criticize Christians. They'll still get agitated over the abortion clinic bombing that happened in 1984. But when you want to talk about the treatment of women and homosexuals and free thinkers and public intellectuals in the Muslim world, I would argue that liberals have failed us. And the crucial point of confusion... yes, thank you.
Thank God you're here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the crucial point of confusion is that we have been sold this meme of Islamophobia, where every criticism of the doctrine of Islam gets conflated with bigotry toward Muslims as people.
Right.
And that is it's intellectually ridiculous. It gets
so hold on. Are you the person who understands the officially codified doctrine of Islam? You're the interpreter of that, so you can say, well, this is...
I'm actually well educated on this topic.
I'm asking you. So you're saying if I criticize you're saying that Islamophobia is not a real thing. That if you're critical of something...
Well, it's not a real thing when we do it.
Right.
Well, no,
it really isn't.
I'm not denying that certain people are bigoted against Muslims as people. And that's a problem.
Big of you.
But
But why are you so hostile about this concept?
It's gross. It's racist.
It's not. But it's so not.
It's like saying those statements, shifty Jew.
You're not listening
Absolutely
to
not.
what we are saying.
You guys are saying if you want to be liberals, believe in liberal principles like freedom of speech, like we are endowed by our forefathers with an inalienable rights, like all men are created equal.
Ben, we have to be able to criticize bad ideas. And
of course we do. No liberal doesn't want to criticize bad ideas.
But Islam at this moment is the motherlode of bad ideas.
Jeez.
So we have ideas like blasphemy.
It is an ugly
apostasy.
It is one basic liberal
let me unpack it.
Tolerance.
Let me unpack it.
But not for intolerance.
No, of course not. But the picture you're painting is to some extent true, but is hugely incomplete. It is certainly true that plenty of fanatics and jihadis are Muslim, but the people who are standing up to them, Malala, incredible Muhammad Ali Dadak in Iran, in prison for 9 years for speaking up for Christians. A friend that I had in Pakistan who was shot this year, Rashid Rahman, for defending people accused of apostasy.
Or how about the more than a billion people who aren't fanatical, who don't punish women, who just want to go to school?
Wait a second. Wait a second.
And don't do any of the things that you're saying all Muslims.
Wait.
Stereotyping.
Wait a second.
Things, and you painting the whole group religion with that.
No. Let's get down to who has the right answer here. A billion people, you say. All these billion people don't hold any of these.
5 or something.
Don't hold these pernicious beliefs.
No,
I wouldn't. Well,
they don't.
That's just not true, Ben. That's just not true.
Can I just express how I think it breaks down in terms of beliefs?
The idea,
you haven't even defined.
You're trying to say that these few people, that's all the problem is, these few bad apples. The idea that someone should be killed if they leave the Islamic...
That's horrible. That should
wait.
Wait.
You're saying that the idea that
Islam.
someone should be killed if they leave the Islamic religion is just a few bad apples?
The people who would actually believe and enact that you murder somebody if they leave Islam is not the majority of Muslims at all.
Okay, let me break this down for you. Okay, we have, as you say, we have 1.5, 1.6 billion Muslims. Now,
second biggest religion in the world, a quarter.
Well, Ben, let me unpack this. Let me unpack this for you.
Please do.
We have just imagine some concentric circles here. You have at the center, you have jihadists. These are people who wake up in the morning wanting to kill apostates, wanting to die trying. They believe in paradise. They believe in martyrdom. Outside of them, we have Islamists. These are people who are just as convinced of martyrdom and paradise and wanting to foist their religion on the rest of humanity, but they want to work within the system. They're not going to blow themselves up on a bus. They want to change governments. They want to use democracy against itself. Those two circles arguably are 20% of the Muslim world. Okay, this is not the fringe of the fringe.
That research on?
A bunch of poll results that we can talk about. So to give you one point of contact, 78% of British Muslims think that the Danish cartoonist should have been prosecuted. 78%. So I'm being conservative when I roll this back to 20%. But outside of that circle, you have conservative Muslims who can honestly look at ISIS and say that does not represent us, that we're horrified by that, but they hold views about human rights and about women, about homosexuals that are deeply troubling. So these are not Islamists, they're not jihadists, but they both those
views are divine.
But they also keep women and homosexuals immiserated in these cultures, and we have to empower the true reformers in the Muslim world to change it. And lying about the link between doctrine and behavior is not going to do that.
The Great Divide... The Great Divide is not between Islam and the rest. It's rather between the fundamentalists and the moderates in each faith.
Okay, but we're misled to think that the fundamentalists are the fringe. Okay, we have jihadists, Islamists, and conservatives.
Well, and by the way,
it depends hundreds of millions of people fit that description.
You're saying that the strongest voices are coming from those who are jihadists and extremists,
and
that represents a bigger piece of the pie than we often think is true.
There's no question.
Okay, so having said that, and even if that is true statistically or otherwise, the key thing to recognize that I don't think is part of the argument, but I think should be, is that there are voices that are oftentimes raised in opposition to these jihadists and to these extreme acts. But guess what? They don't get covered. They don't get exposed. And they're not given the same level of platform that we see the jihadists.
One reason they don't get exposed is because they're afraid to speak out. Because that's the only only religion that acts like the mafia that kill you if you say the wrong thing, draw the wrong picture, or write the wrong book.
So you do have,
there's a reason why Ayaan Hirsi Ali needs bodyguards 24/7.
You do have that element of fear as well, but you also have other braver souls out there who do speak out and who who
are risking their lives to do that.
Like the Muslim clerics and others from Australia to Europe to the United States just recently publicly put their names on paper declaring their opposition to what ISIS and others are doing. So there are those voices, but where was the coverage? Where was that story to sort of create a different picture?
What is your solution? What is your act?
The solution is very much what
we've killed more Muslims than they've killed us by an awful lot. We've invaded more Muslims.
I am not for more killing.
An awful lot. And yet somehow we're exempted from these things because they're not real.
So this was the conversation, and you can look it up on YouTube. Just type real-time Bill Maher or Ben Affleck, and Ben Affleck just goes on common sense while biggest bell, just still with his own rhetoric and hatred against Muslims. So I want to, after the commercial, play another sound bites from the media as well, from CNN. But this one is by Reza Aslan, who is an Iranian-American scholar, and he kind of takes on Bell Maher and Islamophobia. And CNN is very interesting and very, very interesting how they have their segments as questions. Islam is violent or peaceful, and you can also look up this interview. So we will play this interview right after this commercial.
Senabriku for all your Metro Detroit real estate needs. 248-755-3494. Whether buying or selling, short sales, foreclosure, or investment for both business and residential, call Senabriku, owner and broker of St. Jude Realty, at 248-755-3494. If you're facing legal problems, it's time to get the right attorney working for you. Ziad Gossett is experienced in foreclosure defense, eviction, and real estate law, as well as immigration matters, workers' comp, bankruptcy, business law, and all criminal matters. With attorney Ziad Gossett in your corner, you won't have to fight alone. Call 248-680-7300. That's 248-680-7300.
And welcome back to Radio Baladi. This is Adil hosting the show today. We're talking about Islamophobia. And I promise you that we play the Reza Aslan on CNN. So here it goes.
Defenders of Islam insist it is a peaceful religion. Others disagree and point to the primitive treatment in Muslim countries of women and other minorities.
So let's discuss this now. We're joined now by Reza Aslan, a scholar of religions, professor at the University of California, Riverside, and the author of Zealot, The Life and Times of Jesus of Nazareth. Let's talk about this because it's a very interesting conversation every time we have it. Before we get into this discussion, I want to play for you this clip from Bill Maher's show just this Friday night. Here it is.
President Obama keeps insisting that ISIS is not Islamic. Well, maybe they don't practice the Muslim faith the same way he does. But if vast numbers of Muslims across the world believe, and they do, that humans deserve to die for merely holding a different idea, or drawing a cartoon, or writing a book, or eloping with the wrong person, not only does the Muslim world have something in common with ISIS, it has too much in common with ISIS. There's so much talk. You can applaud. Sure.
He went on for a good 5 or 6 minutes about that, talking about how women are circumcision for women, not respecting the rights of women, not respecting the rights of gay people. And what's your reaction? And then we'll talk.
Well, I like Bill Maher. I've been on his show a bunch of times. He's a comedian, but frankly, when it comes to the topic of religion, he's not very sophisticated in the way that he thinks. I mean, the argument about the female genital mutilation being an Islamic problem is a perfect example of that. It's not an Islamic problem, it's an African problem.
Well, wait. Because he says it's a, hold on a second, Reza. Because he says it's a Muslim country problem. He says that in Somalia...
Yeah, but and that's actually empirically, factually incorrect. It's a Central African problem. Eritrea has almost 90% female genital mutilation. It's a Christian country. Ethiopia has 75% female genital mutilation. It's a Christian country. Nowhere else in the Muslim majority states is female genital mutilation an issue. But again, this is the problem, is that you make these facile arguments like that women are somehow mistreated in the Muslim world. Well, that's certainly true in many Muslim majority countries like Iran and Saudi Arabia. Do you know that Muslims have elected 7 women as their heads of states in those Muslim majority countries? How many women do we have as head
for the
of
most
states
part,
in the United States?
Reza, be honest though, for the most part it is not a free and open society for women in those states.
Well, it's not in Iran, it's not in Saudi Arabia, it certainly is in Indonesia and Malaysia, it certainly is in Bangladesh, it certainly is in Turkey. I mean, again, this is the problem, is that you're talking about a religion of 1.5 billion people, and certainly it becomes very easy to just simply paint them all with a single brush by saying, well, in Saudi Arabia they can't drive, and so therefore that's somehow representative of Islam. It's representative of Saudi Arabia.
But
in Iran, they don't have...
I mean, I think that Bill Maher's point is that these aren't extremists. We often talk about extremists, and that we should crack down on extremists, and why aren't Muslims speaking out about extremists? In Saudi Arabia, when women can't vote and they can't drive and they need permission from their husband, that's not extremists. Why aren't we talking more about what... That's not extremists, that's commonplace. Why don't we talk more about the commonplace wrongs that are happening in some of these countries?
It's extremist when compared to the rights and responsibilities of women, Muslim women around the world. It's an extremist way of dealing with it.
But it's not extremist in that. It's not extremist in that country, in Saudi Arabia. That's the norm.
Oh no, it's not. I mean, look, Saudi Arabia is one of the most, if not the most extremist Muslim country in the world. In the month that we've been talking about ISIS and their terrible actions in Iraq and Syria, Saudi Arabia, our closest ally, has beheaded 19 people. Nobody seems to care about that because Saudi Arabia sort of preserves our national interests. Okay. You know, this is the problem, is that these kinds of conversations that we're having aren't really being had in any kind of legitimate way. We're not talking about women in the Muslim world. We're using 2 or 3 examples to justify a generalization. That's actually the definition of bigotry.
All right, fair enough. Let's listen to Benjamin Netanyahu at the United Nations today.
So when it comes to their ultimate goals, Hamas is ISIS and ISIS is Hamas. And what they share in common, all militant Islamists share in common.
So Reza, the question at the bottom of the screen that everyone is looking at. Does Islam promote violence?
Islam doesn't promote violence or peace. Islam is just a religion, and like every religion in the world, it depends on what you bring to it. If you're a violent person, your Islam, your Judaism, your Christianity, your Hinduism is going to be violent. There are marauding Buddhist monks in Myanmar slaughtering women and children. Does Buddhism promote violence? Of course not. People are violent or peaceful, and that depends on their politics, their social world, the way that they see their communities, the way they see themselves.
So, Reza, you don't think that there's anything more, there's the justice system in Muslim countries, you don't think is somehow more primitive or subjugates women more than in other countries?
Did you hear what you just said? You said in Muslim countries. I just told you that Indonesia, women are absolutely 100% equal to men. In Turkey, they have had more female representatives, more female heads of state in Turkey than we have in the United States.
But in Pakistan,
stop saying things like Muslim countries.
Women are still being stoned.
And that's a problem for Pakistan. You're
in
right.
other words,
I
just want to be clear on what your point is, because I thought you and Bill Maher were saying the same thing. Your point is that Muslim countries are not to blame. There is nothing particular, there's no common thread in Muslim countries. You can't paint with a broad brush that somehow their justice system or Sharia law or what they're doing in terms of stoning and female mutilation is different than in other countries like Western countries.
Stoning and mutilation and those barbaric practices should be condemned and criticized by everyone. The actions of individuals and societies and countries like Iran, like Pakistan, like Saudi Arabia must be condemned because they don't belong in the 21st century. But to say Muslim countries as though Pakistan and Turkey are the same, as though Indonesia and Saudi Arabia are the same, as though somehow what is happening in the most extreme forms of these repressive countries, these autocratic countries, is representative of what's happening in every other Muslim country, is frankly, and I use this word seriously, stupid. So let's stop doing that.
Okay, Reza, let's listen. I want you to listen to Benjamin Netanyahu again. This is actually the one I wanted you to hear.
Yeah, the ISIS.
But our hopes and the world's hopes for peace are in danger because everywhere we look, militant Islam is on the march. It's not militants, it's not Islam, it's militant Islam. And typically, its first victims are other Muslims, but it spares no one.
He's making a clear distinction there. He says it's not militant, it's not Islam, it's militant Islam. Do you understand his distinction there? Is he correct?
Well, he's correct in talking about militant Islam being a problem. He is absolutely incorrect in talking about ISIS equaling Hamas. That's just ridiculous. No one takes him seriously when he says things like that. And frankly, it's precisely why under his leadership, Israel has become so incredibly isolated from the rest of the global community. Those kinds of statements are illogical, they're irrational, they're so obviously propagandistic. In fact, he went so far as to then bring up the Nazis, which has become kind of a verbal tick for him whenever he brings up either Hamas or ISIS. Again, these kinds of oversimplifications, I think, only cause more danger. There is a very real problem. ISIS is a problem. Al-Qaeda is a problem. These militant Islamic groups like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like the Taliban have to be dealt with. But it doesn't actually help us to deal with them when instead of talking about rational conflicts, rational criticisms of a particular religion, we instead so easily slip into bigotry by simply painting everyone with a single brush, as we have been doing in this conversation, mind you.
Well, we're just asking the questions, Reza, and you're answering. I think you answered very fairly, and we appreciate it. Thank you, Reza Aslan.
We appreciate your perspective and helping everyone understand your perspective.
126
the conversation of Reza Aslan, and he just had phenomenal answers to the questions on CNN. And we need more of that. We need people to jump in and clarify things and make things clear. Some people say, well, I don't have to make things clear. People have to really look up things and really look at things intellectually. They do, but it's happened even in the NFL. Look at the recent controversy in the Kansas City Redskins game when Hussein Abdullah made an interception and made a touchdown, and right after the touchdown he kneeled and made what in Arabic word says sajda, or prostrating, meaning thanking or praising Allah for his successful interception and touchdown, while the referee there makes a call for unsportsmanlike conduct and gives Kansas City a penalty of 15 yards on their kick. So it has gotten to that level of, is that really ignorance or is that Islamophobia? You don't really know. So if they're really ignorant, they must be informed. So those are the real conversations that are happening every day, and people are either making hatred comments or they are making it out of ignorance. I got a tweet that a very funny tweet by Dean when he said, "Let me clarify to you this before Fox News takes this, that Ebola is not an Arabic word." So I found this very, very funny. We will take our last commercial break, and we will come back with you to talk about the same topic, and hopefully you have some thoughts, you have some concerns. Have you been subject to Islamophobia? What is your story? I'd like to hear it. So we'll take a break, and we'll come back with Radio Melody.
Life for Relief and Development is a non-profit charity that has been providing humanitarian aid and development to people and communities regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background for over 22 years. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life rushes to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Life also has development projects that provide medical relief, water purification, educational programs, relief for orphans, and much more. Your help and support can greatly improve these efforts. All donations are tax deductible. For more information, please visit our website at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493. That's lifeusa.org, 248-424-7493.
الدكتور عبادة زحيلي أخصائي أمراض الغدد والسكري، خبرة 12 سنة من الأبحاث الطبية والتعامل مع أمراض السكري، آخر الأبحاث والدراسات الصادرة. لدى مركز زحيلي طاقم طبي متميز لاستقبالكم، يتكلمون لغتكم العربية والإنجليزية. مراكز الزحيلي مجهزة بشكل كامل لراحتكم والعناية بكم من خلال استقبالكم على 27207 لاشر رود في مدينة ساوثفيلد. لحجز المواعيد اتصلوا على الرقم 248-809-5988 248-809-5988. مراكز زحيلي لأمراض الغدد والسكري ترحب بكم.
And we are back with Radio Bellady. We have a listener, Sam, you're on the line?
Yes, good morning to all of you. You guys saying ISIL is not Islam, but I say it is Islam. I don't care about people. I care about books like Quran and Sunnah. Like Surah 5:9, it says, kill all non-believe in Muhammad.
Okay, read the verse before that.
Well, it's not in front of me, but
well, I can also bring a verse from the Bible that says, "Thou shalt kill." That's
so
just bringing it out of context.
Okay, fine, but if the Bible wrong, that means Quran is wrong.
No,
too?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying read the verse before that so we can have a context. You can't just bring something out of context and bring it. And this is actually, this is a great, thank you for calling, because this is a great example of how people take things out of context and say, okay, this historic event happened, Muslims believe this should happen all the time, right? So, this is the sad part, that people take things out of context, and I want to play now a clip of Jews recommit to standing against Islamophobia. So this is only a very, very small clip, but I want you to listen to it.
We are Jews who stand against Islamophobia in every form. I recommit myself to opposing police surveillance of the Muslim community.
I recommit myself to standing against Islamophobic ads in public places.
I recommit myself to stand against anti-Muslim bias in the media.
I recommit myself to challenging Islamophobia perpetrated by our government and institutions.
I recommit myself to opposing profiling of the Muslim community.
I recommit myself to speaking out against harassment of Muslims and those who assume to be Muslims.
I recommit myself to opposing the litmus test that determines who is considered an acceptable Muslim based on their loyalty to the state of Israel.
I recommit myself to speaking out against lies and propaganda about Muslims.
I recommit myself to being a partner and ally to Muslim and other groups that have been spearheading the organizing against Islamophobia.
We are members of the Jewish community.
We stand together with the Muslim community.
We are members of the Jewish community.
We recommit
to standing for justice
and dignity for all our communities.
This clip was produced by the Jews against Islamophobia, and it's on YouTube. You can look it up. It's produced by the Jewish Voice for Peace. So this is another great support from the Jewish community, and we really appreciate those efforts. And there are so many efforts going on to combat Islamophobia in the media, in the workplace. So I'd also like to thank all the organizations, non-profit organizations that are spearheading and that are doing the work to inform citizens about real Islam, and also not just to name a few organizations, but CARE, ADC, all the other organizations like Jewish for Peace that are trying their best to be very fair to this, because the other side has so much power in the media. And as we said, they can say whatever they want on the media, and they don't get penalized for it. They don't lose their jobs, as it has happened when people spoke of other races. For example, when either Muslims or Arab Americans speak, like, for example, Helen Thomas, when she said that Jews should leave Palestine, she did lose her post. She was attacked like crazy in the media for making those comments. Imagine somebody else would say the same comments about Muslims, they would not get any repercussions for that. So that's the double standards that we're speaking here. We have a hashtag by Muhammad Ansar. He said, Islamophobia is real. The false claim term is a method for shutting down criticism of Islam is a prime example. Another tweet that we get here, commenting on Bill Maher's, it says a big part of the problem is that Bill Maher clearly isn't anywhere close to the intellectual level that he thinks he is. And another one here on Facebook that says, I hope that the right or the far right do not use any incidents such as the beheadings to create a climate of fear, and they actually do. And this is part of their their propaganda. Another tweet that says Islamophobia because of this awesome phenomenon, peace, equality, and it shows here some of the demonstrations, or not the demonstrations, but the Hajj pilgrimage, which witnessed 5 million people or more in one place practicing the pilgrimage that just happened last week. Another hashtag here, or another post by Imam Jatullah, he says, how bigot what can a person become to spend money to deface their new junk just to spread hate? So many tweets on Islamophobia on Twitter, on Facebook. I'd really appreciate your calls, for those who called today, and thanks to Dean Ubaidullah for joining us today. It has been a pleasure. Keep the conversation going on Twitter, on Facebook. Use the hashtag Radio Baladi. If you have any questions, you can tag us on GMM Radio, or on Facebook, also US Arab Radio. This was Adil Mozab, your host for Radio Baladi. Thank you so much again for listening, and we will talk soon.
حبيبي يا حبيبي